Imagine an economy where factories hum with robots, offices glow late into the night, and capital flows at the speed of light. Yet there are fewer young workers every year to keep the system alive. At the same time, millions of people are on the move across borders, cities, and continents searching for opportunity. Capital has never been more mobile. People, paradoxically, have never been more constrained. This is not a distant future. It is the economic reality of the 21st century. Today, we will explore how three powerful forces, population aging, migration, and labor market transformation, are reshaping the economy of capital. This is a story about who works, who owns, who moves, and who benefits when demographics collide with money. For most of human history, economic growth depended on one simple equation. More people meant more workers, and more workers meant more output. That equation is breaking down. Across advanced economies, people are living longer and having fewer children. Japan, South Korea, much of Europe, and increasingly China are entering an era where retirees outnumber new entrants to the workforce. The median age rises, the dependency ratio climbs, and the question becomes unavoidable: who will produce and who will pay? From the perspective of capital, aging societies behave differently. Older populations save more, spend less, and take fewer risks. Pension funds, insurance companies, and sovereign wealth funds grow in importance, channeling enormous pools of capital into bonds, real estate, and stable equities. Interest rates fall. Asset prices rise. Productivity growth slows. This creates a paradox. Capital becomes abundant, but labor becomes scarce. Money looks for returns, while firms struggle to find workers. In response, companies invest in automation. Robots replace routine labor. Artificial intelligence augments cognitive tasks. Capital substitutes for people. On paper, productivity survives. In reality, inequality deepens. Those who own capital benefit from rising asset values. Those who rely on wages face stagnation or displacement. Aging does not affect everyone equally. It redraws the economic map between generations. If workers are scarce in aging societies, where are they? They are younger, more numerous, and often underemployed in developing regions. Africa, South Asia, and parts of Latin America are experiencing demographic growth that mirrors Europe's past. This imbalance creates one of the defining forces of our time: migration. Migration is not just a social or political phenomenon. It is a fundamental economic mechanism. Labor moves toward capital, or at least it tries to. When migration works, it can be a powerful growth engine. Migrants fill labor shortages, pay taxes, start businesses, and support aging welfare systems. They increase the effective labor supply without increasing birth rates. For capital, migration is a way to restore balance. But migration is also constrained by borders, policies, culture, and fear. Capital can cross borders in milliseconds. Workers cannot. This asymmetry shapes global inequality. Firms offshore production to where labor is cheap. Supply chains stretch across continents. Meanwhile, people who want to move often face walls, legal, physical, or invisible. The result is a fragmented global labor market. Capital is global. Labor remains local. Economically, migration often makes sense. Politically, it is explosive. In host countries, migrants are frequently blamed for wage pressure, housing shortages, or cultural change, despite evidence that their overall economic impact is positive or neutral. In origin countries, migration can drain talent while also generating remittances that support entire communities. For capital, this tension creates uncertainty. Investment thrives on stability. Yet migration debates fuel populism, policy reversals, and regulatory risk. Some countries respond by selectively opening doors, welcoming high-skilled migrants while restricting low-skilled ones. Others invest in temporary worker programs, keeping labor flexible but precarious. In all cases, labor becomes segmented. Native workers, migrants, and temporary workers occupy different tiers of the market, often with unequal rights and protections. Capital adapts easily to this segmentation. Labor does not. Demographic change does not only affect how many workers there are, it changes what work means. As populations age, demand shifts toward healthcare, elder care, and personal services, sectors that are labor-intensive and difficult to automate. At the same time, younger, more mobile workers are drawn into digital platforms, gig work, and remote employment. The labor market fragments into extremes. Highly skilled, well-paid knowledge workers on one end, low-paid, insecure service worker. On the other, capital benefits from flexibility. Platforms reduce labor costs. Algorithms manage workers. Risk shifts from firms to individuals. But aging societies need stability, not volatility. They need caregivers, nurses, teachers, and technicians who stay, not freelancers who log off. This creates a structural tension. The economy of capital rewards efficiency and mobility. The economy of aging requires continuity and care. At the heart of demographic change lies an intergenerational question. Who owes what to whom? Younger workers finance pensions, health care, and public debt accumulated by older generations. Older generations, in turn, hold most of the assets, homes, stocks, and bonds. When growth slows, this balance becomes fragile. Rising asset prices benefit older owners but lock younger generations out of housing and wealth accumulation. Lower interest rates help borrowers but undermine pension returns. Tax systems strain under demographic pressure. Capital seeks protection. It lobbies for favorable regulation, lower taxes, and secure returns. Younger workers demand opportunity, affordability, and fairness. Demography turns economics into a moral debate. How does capital respond to these demographic shifts? First, through automation. Machines do not age, migrate, or demand pensions. Second, through globalization of production. If workers cannot move, factories will. Third, through financialization. When real growth slows, returns are sought through financial engineering rather than productive investment. And finally, through political influence, shaping migration policy, labor law, and welfare reform to preserve profitability. These strategies can sustain returns in the short term. In the long term, they risk undermining social cohesion and economic resilience. An economy cannot function on capital alone. It needs people, workers, consumers, caregivers, and citizens. The future is not predetermined. Demographic change sets constraints, not destinies. One path leads to a high capital, low labor economy, automated, unequal, and politically unstable. Another path embraces migration, lifelong learning, and inclusive labor markets, rebalancing capital and work. A third path invests in human capital across the life cycle, enabling older workers to stay productive and younger workers to build wealth. The choices societies make about borders, technology, and redistribution will determine which path prevails. Demography is slow, but its impact is relentless. Capital can move, adapt, and multiply. People age, migrate, and care for one another. When these realities fall out of sync, economies fracture. The central challenge of our time is not simply managing aging populations or migration flows. It is aligning the logic of capital with the needs of human societies. Because in the end, capital without people is just numbers on a screen, and people without opportunity cannot sustain an economy. The future of capitalism will be decided not only by markets, but by demographics.